Hi everybody and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking, and today I am making Maritime Oatcakes. Now, it's a very simple basic recipe, and if you are Scottish or Scottish ancestry or whatever, hey, you may have eaten oatcakes before. They're a cookie that's not terribly sweet, but they're very nutritious. It's a traditional food that the Scots ate in Scotland, and this recipe has been adapted and come here to the Maritime provinces in Nova Scotia, where Nova Scotia, which is Latin for New Scotland, guess what? There's a lot of people of Scottish descent here. Anyway, let's get moving on this recipe. And I'm going to start off with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. That's Canadian all-purpose flour. That would be bread flour or strong flour in the USA or the UK. And next, by 1.5 cups of flour, I'm going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt. That's going to be followed by 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. This is baking soda, not baking powder. Remember, you can't interchange those ingredients, so don't mix them up. There we go, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And now it says to blend or sift these together. So since I don't own a flour sifter, guess what? I'm going to be blending them together. I'm going to bake these in a preheated 350 Fahrenheit, which is, I think, 175 degrees Celsius, but fear not, metric people. All the metric equivalents will be in my recipe in the description box down below. Now, having mixed those together, so you no longer can see the separate baking soda and salt in here, it's all mixed in with the flour. And I'm going to add 1.5 cups of rolled oats. These are not steel cut oats, these are rolled oats. Hence, Maritime Oatcakes when you put rolled oats in them. And I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now this is plain white granulated sugar, caster sugar, I believe it's known in the UK. Just a couple of tablespoons. These are not meant to be a sweet cookie, so they're just meant to be a nice nutritious snack. So now I'm going to stir the sugar in here as well as the oats. And as you can see, I'm using my wooden spoon to stir these because these are a traditional cookie, which people didn't have power appliances back in the good old days. And even into the 50s and 60s, a lot of times people didn't have a lot of power operated mixers and whatever in their kitchens. Now next, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of shortening to this. Now that's shortening or lard, whichever you like. It does call for shortening in this recipe. And 1/4 cup of butter. Now it's a lot easier to combine if these are both room temperature and not chilled from your refrigerator. I'm also going to use a pastry blender because it says to blend these together. And if you use your pastry blender, if you have one, this will go a lot faster and easier. However, if you don't have a pastry blender, then you can always use 2 knives to combine these, but it takes longer and it's a little more difficult. Now I'm going to do my pastry blending until this looks like coarse breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to kind of dig in here, and you just start working it into working this fat into your dry ingredients until you feel it looks like dry breadcrumbs, which will also mean there's no separate lumps of butter or shortening in here, and it will all look like a very homogeneous mixture. And you might have to take a break every once in a while just to give your arm a rest. Okay, once you've made sure there's no flour mixture hiding out at the bottom of your bowl and everything is all combined, it should look something like this. And now I'm going to put this aside, and it says to add 3 to 4 tablespoons of water, which is 45 to 60 milliliters of water. Now what you want to do is add enough water to make this a dough that you can roll out. So I'm going to start out by adding 3 tablespoons, and then I'll see what it looks like. These older recipes aren't always precise about exactly how much you need. So let me just give this a stir now. I put in 3 tablespoons of 45 milliliters of water. We'll see how this works. Up nicely. Sometimes I give this a little encouragement with my hand, not just a spoon. See how this is doing. Oh yeah. I don't think that needs any more water. That's going to form itself into a nice ball of dough. Oh yeah. And maybe next time I might need 3½ tablespoons of water or whatever. It all depends probably on your day, the amount of moisture in your air, all kinds of factors like that. Whether it's winter, summer, whether your air temperature is, where your air temperature is, where your humidity level is. I'm just going to work this with my hand in my bowl a bit. And you can see it's clumping up nicely into a nice ball of dough as I work this a bit with my hands in the bowl. Yeah, see, I've gathered it all in one lump. And here we are. Here's my cookie dough. And it says to add some more rolled oats. Sprinkle that on your surface. And now I'm going to put this down here and I'm going to roll this out till it's 1/4 inch thick, which is about so thick. So thick. Then I'm going to cut it into 2-inch squares, which could be a bit of a challenge because cutting things in squares is not my forte. If I'm doing a rolled out cookie, usually I'm using cookie cutters, but doesn't say to chill it or anything like that. So as soon as you dump it out of your bowl in one solid lump, you can just start rolling it into a sheet of dough. And try to make it sort of rectangular so it'll be easier to cut it into 2-inch squares. And I'm going to get my knife and see if I can cut some 2-inch squares. Okay. 2-inch square. 2 inches. That would be 2.54. That'd be about 5½ centimeters. Because an inch is 2.54. So I have a measurement on here, which I can go for 2 inches, which is about, right about there. Now this recipe is supposed to make 2½ dozen cookies. So let's hope I get 2½ dozen oatcakes out of this. And just remember when you're cutting these that it's more important that they're 1/4 inch thick than it is that they're 2 inches square. Because you know what? The only person who really cares what size and shape they are is you and your family, whoever is going to be eating them, right? Now my cookies are going to go into my preheated 350-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'll be back to show you what my lovely toasted cookies, my lovely toasted oatcakes look like. And here's my Maritime Oatcakes, fresh and hot from the oven. And now I'll just put them off on my cooling rack and let them cool off to room temperature. There we go. See, does this look like lovely cookies? See that? Whether or not they're all 2 inches square or not, I don't know. But they're not going in a Maritime Oatcake competition. They're just going to go on a plate and be eaten by my husband and myself. So if they're not exactly 2 inches square, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now in the recipe it doesn't really specify what to put them on to cook them, I made the assumption that it's an ungreased cookie sheet because you do have a quarter of a cup of butter and a half a cup of shortening in these cookies, so that's a fair amount of fat to have in them. And with so little sugar, they shouldn't be sticking to your cookie sheet. Now what I'm using here is a stoneware. It's a stoneware cookie sheet, so after you use it for a while, you don't need to grease it. And these cookies are coming off of here no problem. They're just sliding off of here. So I have a feeling that these cookies would be just fine without any grease, even on a metal cookie sheet. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video today, and I hope that you will like, subscribe, leave a comment below, give this recipe a try at home. Check out some of my other over 130 videos on easy classic cooking. And come on back and join me next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.